We have from the Washington Examiner, White House correspondent Sarah Westwood, we have Pastor Mark Burns, and we have Democratic strategist Carter Turner, all with us, not to talk on Black Friday about shopping, but to talk about politics. So, Sarah, why don't you set us up on this? It is interesting because it does appear as if there are two factions within the transition team trying to get the president-elect's ear, saying, hey, go with Rudy Giuliani, forget about Romney, and the other side saying Romney would be a good pick. What do you make of all this?
Well, you're exactly right, Donald Trump. He's already building this team of dissenting voices. You see that with his pick of his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, with his pick of his chief strategist, Steve Bannon. So he has these two voices in his ear. Some people telling him he needs to pick someone who would be an olive branch to the Never Trump wing of the party, who would help him normalize relations with the part of the GOP that rejected him when he clinched the nomination. This other faction in his ear saying that Romney would be a disappointment to the people who put him in the White House, that Romney represents the failures of the Republican Party and he should pick someone loyal and who reflects his own values like Rudy Giuliani.
What's your sense, Pastor Burns, on which side of that argument that Sarah lays out for us, which side the president-elect will listen to?
Well, you know, I really think it's a wise decision to think about bringing a former leader that speaks to the Never Trump movement. But at the same time, I do understand that Mr. Trump is going to, analyze to see who is the best person qualified to handle, the prestigious position as Secretary of State.
Which one do you favor? But if you had to pick between Rudy and Romney, which one do you favor then, of the two of them? Just those two.
I would favor Rudy Giuliani simply because, again, he's been there. He's a loyalist, and I think he can do a great job. But
the loyalty,
but I also
Carter,
know that he is.
No, go ahead, Pastor. Finish that. I'm sorry.
But I know that, again, Mitt Romney also is a highly qualified person to be Secretary of State, and also would bridge the gap between some of those Never Trumpers that was, as you said, not for Donald Trump's nomination, which ultimately is a stronger GOP.
Yeah, what's your sense, Carter, from where you sit on all of this? You're looking in from the outside saying, boy, I wonder will he go with Romney? There was some suggestion from our colleague Ed Henry this morning that maybe Romney apologizes to the president-elect and that somehow gets him the job as Secretary of State. What's your take on it?
I find the whole loyalty thing pretty interesting. Obviously for a lot of people who came out in favor of Trump early, they put their reputations on the line. Some of them put their political futures on the line. I'm sure it's tough for them to sit back and see somebody who not only didn't support Trump, but actually was one of the most vocal opponents of Trump, to see him get rewarded like this. I can see why that would not sit well. But what I find a little bit ironic is that so much of Trump's campaign was about being anti-establishment and changing the way Washington was run. But this kind of loyalty thing is exactly how Washington's been run. So, I suspect he's going to go with a third option. I don't know who that would be. Giuliani's awfully entangled. He's got business interests all over the world. Romney, the real question about Romney is, does his foreign policy line up with Trump's?
Well, that is true.
They do have
different views on a lot of this stuff. I mean, they do. I mean, you would think in the America First movement, right, Pastor Burns, that helped get Donald Trump elected. I'm not sure that Mitt Romney subscribes to that. I'm not sure that he has anti-trade as Mr. Trump might be. They may not agree on a lot. Is that a problem, you think?
Right.
Well, again, I think
that's definitely a problem.
Pastor Burns, go ahead. I'm sorry if there was any confusion there.
Sorry.
Right. Actually, again, as my esteemed colleague was saying, I would think that would be absolutely a problem. I mean, ultimately, whoever is going to be the Secretary of State need to echo the heartbeat of the incoming President of the United States of America. And if there's some conflict that will be taking place, absolutely, I would completely disagree with Mitt Romney becoming the Secretary of State. I think ultimately the president is trying to unify the Republican Party, making it a stronger Republican Party and the Republican-controlled Congress, so that he will be in a position to do the things that he's made promises on the campaign trail. And that is, and the only way he could do that is to have a unified Republican Party. It
would be interesting. There are examples, I think maybe even Colin Powell with George W. Bush, where the State Department is not necessarily in line with other parts of the administration. So, we'll come back to this. I want to go to Chicago.